Welcome back to Light the Wick. Feels good to say welcome back, Charles.
Yeah.
It's our second week of Light the Wick. How you feeling?
I feel great. Yeah, this is awesome. Chad Stahelski, I mean, what a dream to get him on the show and talk. It's so cool to hear about the overlapping ideas between John Wick and Mission Impossible. Just the way that there are overlaps in the way that they approach making these movies. It's kind of fun. They're different, but they're also similar in some ways. It's really fun.
Yeah, and also always great to talk to a fellow dog lover. I believe his dogs are from China or Turkey or something. So we love that aspect of it. You know,
Yes.
We're big dog people.
I think this is the episode where we get into the dog stuff. So it's good to hear him talk about dogs. He clearly is a big dog lover, which is obviously evident in the John Wick series being a dog-loving series as well.
Would you consider it part of the renaissance of dog cinema?
Oh yeah, we bring it up to him. Okay. He says that he was honored. Well, you'll see when everybody should listen to the interview. You'll hear him talk about it. It's great.
Do you have any topics to talk about? You teased me last episode. Now I'm on the hook. I want to know what you're thinking about, what you're reading about. So,
well, this time of the episode, you usually get into your big promotions. You know, you tell everybody about our sponsors.
Yeah.
There's somebody who reached out to us. His name is, I think, Guy Brasher, and he pointed out that he thought that Real Estate Interests LLC sounded like an IMF cover, and so he's not convinced it's real.
Wow. You know, it could be. It could be. We don't ask questions. You know, we just love all our sponsors, and I love reading them.
Yeah. It's like Consolidated Insurance. Isn't that in Ghost Protocol?
It really is. Charles, you're just setting me up to just do my plugs right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon and his excellent podcast, My Favorite Album. Every week he talks to a filmmaker, an actor, a musician about their favorite album. And he's got some amazing guests, including Rogue Nation co-writer Drew Pierce, Casey Musgraves, Charles, and myself. We've both been on the show a number of times, although we've never been on individually to actually talk about our favorite albums. So we keep waiting. And one day Jeremy will invite us on to talk about that. But it's a great show. Check it out. The episode is also brought to you by John B. And, as Charles just mentioned, Real Estate Interest LLC. Possibly a shell corporation, but what I'm pretty sure is a legitimate business that offers commercial real estate advice for growing companies. So companies can consult with them even if they're not looking to buy or sell. So there you go, Charles.
I love it.
You set me up perfectly.
Yep.
So without any further ado, I guess we'll throw it to Chad and we'll be back at the end of the episode. Charles and I were together when we saw Civil War, and your set piece there at the airport is, I think, maybe the best thing in the whole MCU. But, I mean, how does something like that compare to running and gunning through an entire movie in 50 days?
Honestly, it's the same process. You know, time you just build in how you want it. That's obviously a more complicated sequence in one way because of the visual effects, the number of cast members, and the fact that because of scheduling, you could never have all the cast members at one time. I mean, there's 3 different, technically, units that did that. I came in, David, I did my whole sequence, and Darren Press came and did his whole sequence. Then the Russos come in and do their whole sequence, you know, and then sometimes you got to go back and forth a couple times. I mean, it's just a massive thing. And then that's not counting, you know, I don't want to exclude the VFX, you know, supervisors that come in and direct their little, you know, pieces of the pie, getting their plate shots and their composites and stuff. There's a lot of work that goes in, but like when you're in that kind of, you know, there's different levels of the Hollywood machine at the big budget level. Everybody's done the process enough to know, okay, we know, okay, it's just a matter of the meetings are about who's, you know, sorting out the order of things. Okay, so what we'll do is the stunt guys will go on design. This is it. Okay, we'll look at that. We'll go get the plate shots. No, hold off on the plate. Let's get the live action first. Once you figure all the parts out, everybody's like, you know, there's so many great VFX supervisors, VFX second unit directors, stunt second unit directors, you know, and the Russos are, you know, Joe and Anthony are, you know, incredibly experienced directors. They're very good leaders, great managers, you know, great directors that know how to talk to a crew and get what they want. I mean, communication's everything for a director. Like we said before, like I have a tree in my head. If I just say, fuck you guys, you don't understand my vision. That's not helping me get my vision. Like everybody gets that, right? You can be the frustrated artistic director all you want. That doesn't fucking help anybody. You know what I mean? You got to get it out. If you can't express to your crew what you want, how are they going to build it? It might be good for $1 million artsy film where you can control every aspect of it. But like, if you're blowing shit up and you got people and you have a large cast and you're trying to create a world, you got to get that out there. I mean, you have to drive the train. You have to lead from the front. But if you can draw a tree so everybody can see it. And if everyone else draws a tree and that's not the tree, you got to keep working with them till you get the tree. You know what I mean? You can't just, that's what happens. If the director doesn't know from day one what kind of tree he's trying to get, that's why you get wacky, tone shifting, seems like piecemeal movies that don't really hit their mark. At least,
Right.
That's what's happened in my experience a lot.
I wanted to ask you about the color for the movie, because that was another thing that was very distinct when I first saw this movie. And actually, I was doing the post for my movie like right after John Wick had come out, and I was lucky enough to have Ian Vertovec as the colorist for my movie, and I was just talking to him and geeking out with him about John Wick, because the colors in John Wick and the whole series are so amazing, and just that neon and that kind of vibe that you gave it, and those distinct colors. I wanted to ask you where that came from, or what precipitated that.
It's a little of a couple things. There's like 10% of it is like, at the time, every movie, if you wanted to be a grounded action movie, had to be gritty and tough and real, with blues and browns, and everything had a filter on it. And you're like, oh, we're tough, and you're just like, okay, that's great. We weren't trying to be real. We had a guy that killed 80 guys over a puppy, so obviously, we're not grounded in reality. But we wanted to feel real. So again, I just go off. The idea was two things. One, I'm a gigantic fan of black and white. I love my old films. I love noir. So I had seen this thing years ago when a friend of mine hooked me. I forget who actually did it, but it was a version of Raiders of the Lost Ark where they just turned down the color and color. So the whole movie was in black and white. And then a little research says, well, Spielberg wanted to light it. Yeah, that wanted to do it just to prove that he could do a black and white with color, but all the shadows were. And I did. I thought that was genius. I'm like, I'm going to do the same thing with, noir. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it with color. And rather than be grim and brown and blue, we're going to do neon noir. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do not quite cyberpunk or New York, Tokyo or Japanese manga, but we're going to go neon noir. We're going to do a black and white film with cool colors. And John Sella got us together, made us sit in a room, and he just started putting up color palettes. We're like, okay, that one's blue. He's angry here, so he's going to be red. We're going to do this. And then on the second one, we took it to a new level when I got one of my favorite DPs of all time was Dan Louston, who had done a lot of Guillermo del Toro stuff and a few other things at the time. And through serendipity and his camp had heard that I liked him. He had no clue who I was, never saw John Wick before. I got him to watch my first movie, John Wick 1, and then he's like, yes, I would love to work with you. So he came over. We had a meeting in New York. He loved what I was saying, and I gave him free rein to like layer colors. I had seen a rough cut of Crimson Peak at the time, and he had done this hallway shot with so many colors in it, yet it still looked black, but it had like 5 colors in it. And I was like, that's genius. I want that guy. And when I showed him all the action design and what the stunt guys have been doing and how to layer colors, and he's like, that's great, but where are you going to do all this? So I was like, New York City, and then I'm going to build a house of mirrors, and then we're going to do horses, and then later I said, I'm going to build a house of glass, and you're going to do reflections, and we're going to do all this stuff in water, then we're going to go to Rome, and I'm going to take the catacombs, and he just got fully on board and took it to a new level. So again, but colors to me are a cue that this is not real. Like when you see a John Wick movie, you should go two things. One, you should look at it and go, where's that? I want to go there. I want to go to that spa. I want to go to that hotel because it's so cool looking. It's like weird, retro, old school, but new. When you combine color with anything that's like the old hotel or the old vibe of like a steakhouse or like the Continental in the movie, and you see it lit really well, it's not so doom and gloom and it doesn't feel like it's old. It feels like it's fresh new with some nostalgia or retro in it. And that's what we're trying to get you to feel. It's like, I want to go there because I love the leather, but it doesn't look like an old person's or an old guy's thing. It looks like, okay, this is where the cool guys go. And it's that juxtaposition that color makes you feel combined with that kind of set design. Secondly, it should make you feel like, yeah, this place isn't real. Like no place is that cool. No place is that red or blue. And that's the cue for the audience to like, look, I remember when the reviews first came out about Wick 1, 2, and even 3, they're like, yeah, this doesn't feel like this would never happen in the real world. I'm like, that's a great review, buddy. That's awesome. Earn your paycheck. You know what? I'm going to stand by you and back that review up. You're right. The movie sucked. because it's not real. You're right. You're right. That would never. You're absolutely. As far as I know, that would never. You're right. That would. There's not this underground thing that has rock operas in the middle of Rome, and then human sacrifice and you kill 80. You're absolutely right, dude. It will never happen. So it was a little shocking that even after the dogs, the horses, the colors, the gun fu, the mysterious worlds, that people were like, yeah, no, this is supposed to be real. No, it's not supposed to be real. It's imagine back in the day when they were telling the tales of Odysseus from, the Odyssey. Like, that's all I'm doing. I mean, if you read the Odyssey of the Iliad and don't get that that's John Wick that I've ripped off, I don't have to tell you. Go back to your classical literature. It's a myth. I mean, I try to do everything I can to let people know it's a myth. The color, the action, the sound effects, the music, the vibe, the tone, the lack of dialogue, the hidden world, and the fact that, like, look, I do like 2-act structure. Like, there's something that happens and then the mission, and it's all in the journey. John Wicks don't have a lot of plot, but they have a lot of story. 2 very, very different ways to do a movie. I don't care about You'll never see a shot of John Wick where a guy opens up a folder and go, John Wick, you worked for the CIA, you killed, oh my God, you speak. Like, no, you find, like, you will never know how many languages John will ever speak. He's just gonna do it. You're never going to find out that he had this old girlfriend in high school that did this and the bully beat him up. So that's why that's never going to happen. John is like, High Plains Drifter, or he's like the guy you'll never, if I never, like, John Wick's not even his real name. So he's just that's an alias that he just uses. And, there's no limit to what he knows or doesn't know. And he'll have people from the past. So in a way, John Wick's character is fairly episodic, just like a myth would be, just like Odysseus. You think he really spent 10 years, crossing the Aegean? Like, John, he bumped into minotaurs and sirens and, cyclopses and stuff. That's all we're doing with John. Just every time we do a movie, we find a different trial to stick him in,
Well, was it hard to kind of come up with things? Because I imagine that you didn't say, yes, we'll make this low-budget movie and there will be 5 of them in 10 years. I imagine there was some invention that had to go on after the first one.
Yeah, no.
Surprised.
After the first one, I took a second-year job in South Africa. I think Dave went to do a cleanup job as well. We're like, okay, that was not as fun as we hoped. We didn't do a good job. Fuck, we suck. We're going to go back to our second-unit job. So our career was kind of over after the first film. It opened up and it did well enough that the studio came back and said, hey, would you guys like to do number 2? And we're like, we only did 1. What are you going to do? He killed everybody. So fuck it. And then I think then we went to work on Civil War, doing the second unit, because the Russos had seen the movie and said, oh, this is a really fun movie. You guys should come and do all the action for us. We're like, oh yeah, that sounds fun. We want to go work on Civil War. So we went and did that. And I think I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I got the call from Keanu. He's like, hey man, I had an idea. And Keanu said an idea. It's like, funny thing you called me, because I had this idea. I had this whole sketchbook that I wrote a bunch of stuff down in. And I was like, look, we start with the car. We're going to do this. And he's going to get his car back. And then, hey, what if we went overseas and there's a Continental in every city? And we did it like that. And by the end of the phone call, Keanu and I just looked at each other, or just decided that, I don't know, we're just like, yeah, what do you think? I was like, man, fuck it. Let's do another one. We have ideas. Like, there was some place to go. And we went back to the studio and said, look, if you're good with never saying no, if you're good with not telling us what to do, if you're good with us going pretty weird, and we literally gave the pitch just like I just gave you guys, like that. Like, if you give us, let's just say, creative reign, we'll jump into this. Otherwise, if you're going to start telling us he needs to have a love interest, or we got to do this, that's just not the movie we want to make. So if you want us to go weird into the Wick world, or create our own world, they're like, yeah, sure. If you can do it for X, So we did a treatment, then we wrote a script, and we all decided, like, okay, we'll move forward with this. But it took like a year to decide if we were going to do it, if we have enough ideas, and to get Derek, at the time, the writer, to sketch something out that we were on board with. And when that came back, we're like, yeah, okay, we were both really into it. We're going to go do it. And then we finished the second one. I'm like, okay, dodged that bullet. That was really, okay, good. We did something really well, and people, holy shit, they actually liked it. Like, that was still a huge unknown. And at the end of the second one, literally the same thing happened. We're like, okay, awesome. And then, I mean, it was during post on the second one. Right after, almost when we were done, that Keanu said, hey, I still think I got more of this guy left in me. And I was like, you know what? That's good, dude. Go with God. And I was like, I don't, like, look, man, I don't know what else I can do. And then I was sitting there and I was actually editing with my dog, my two dogs. And I was like, all right. And I was fucking with him. I was like, all right, if John Wick rides a horse and we bring dogs into this, I could potentially sue her, I
Yes.
guess, ago. And
Yes.
Keanu, to his point, was just like, yeah, why wouldn't we? And like literally just starts going on a riff about what the character is doing. And I'm trying to keep up with him writing it down. And then we actually decided together on that one too. Like, okay, we'll do 3. But
Wow.
like to your point, not even number 4. We wrapped number 4, and I was like, I wrapped that when that movie came out because like as we're part of Lionsgate now, and every time I think we went through three different presidents during 3 different movies. They were changing their management quite a bit. So it seemed like every time we do a movie, you'd have to re-explain it to people to catch up. Like, no, we're really this weird.
Right.
This is our fucked up process. You got to trust us in this. This is not normal for us either, but this is just the way Wicks happen. We pick a location, we come up with a goofy idea, horses, cars, dogs, and we try to make a movie around it. And we don't know why it works either, but we're just going to keep doing it this way. So we got
Right.
done with number 3, and we're just like, okay, thank God, whew, that's it. And then we were in Tokyo doing the press for it, and we're like, again, we both sat down, started writing on napkins over a couple of very expensive glasses of scotch, and kind of go, okay, like we have something about this guy we like it, as long as we made a deal, as long as it's fun, and as long as no one's going to try to force us to be something we're not. Look, Mission Impossible is great. That's Tom Cruise running. It's got the world thing. He's a good guy. He's this, he's that, and his wife. She married somebody else. Like that's they got that down. No one does it better than Tom and McCoy right now. I love that. That's great. And the Bonds got the Daniel Craig thing. That's good. That's great. And the Bournes did their thing. Like we've kind of made our own identity now. Like John Wick is not going to have a love interest. I don't think John Wick's going to have too many good days. John Wick is a selfish bad guy that literally put himself in his own problems. No one forced him to do it. He gave up his own finger, gave up his life. Like, think about it. He's a selfish fucker that, has an anger problem that, like makes the world pay for his own grief. Like he's got some deep-seated sociopathic issues. Like, no matter how deep we go into the franchise, like if you try to make him a good guy, you try to redeem him, you try to give him absolution, like, okay, we just became uninterested.
Right.
Everybody else out there is doing that. And that's why I think people kind of like it, because it's not trope. It's not, oh, well, now he's going to rescue a kid and now he's going to do this. And now he's going to okay, no, to be honest, that fucking sucks for me, because, you have a character that doesn't want anything, that's had everything taken away from him, that's killed everybody, that obviously can handle himself with any kind of bad guy. You're not worried about whether or not John Wick's going to die or not. So I've kind of painted myself into a corner for 3 movies. Where you go down to any, writer or somebody you bump into, you go, okay, what would you want to see in number 4? And they're like, well, he's got a girlfriend now. Okay, look, that's not John. So that's every other franchise out there. Great, but that's not us. So what do you do? And to be honest with you, I have no fucking idea. We invent it as we go. But there's something interesting about painting ourselves into a corner. People ask, why do I stay on the John Wick franchise? 1, I get to do anything I want. 2, Keanu's one of the best people in Hollywood you'll ever meet. 3, literally, I love going into the mythological realm and not following things. I love painting myself into a corner. I love figuring out I love problem solving. And John Wick gives me plenty of problems to solve, truthfully. And because no one else understands it, they kind of give you the room creatively to do your thing. Because they just look like, you're right, that's John Wick. And okay, so, who's going to give you notes on something so hard to do? Like, you can't just go, well, I think the relationship with his girlfriend should be. They can't give you that note because you don't have a girlfriend. You know what I mean? So it changes the dynamic in the creative process to be, okay, well, we've got something unique here. Let's hear all ideas. Like, nothing's impossible in the world of John Wick. It's about code. It's about mythology. It's about grief. It's about emotion. It's about action. It's about color. It's about sound. It's about dogs. It's about love. It's about, you can make it whatever you want. It's a myth. At the end of the day, pick a few thematics, throw it in the bowl, and have that kind of freedom to talk or do or show whatever you like is incredibly attractive. It's also so frustrating.
Can you tell it? Can you tease what the idea that brought you back for this next one was, without giving away anything, obviously? But was there an idea that you and Keanu shared that was like that hooked you back into it? Because I imagine these are also very exhausting, so it must take something to get you to want to do it again.
Yeah, no, that's I guess, again, if you go, I have a heavy martial art background. I have a heavy literature background. So to me, mythology and the thematics involved in mythology, from honor, code, Eastern philosophy, the way of dying, the way of accepting death, is always very interesting to me. And to have, I guess it's that warrior code of, you don't have to hate your enemy. You just have to do your game. Like there's this code of honor and this code of ethics, morality between people that are on opposite sides of the line that do it. And we had kind of come up with a story that kind of dealt a lot with that, an adversarial or a rivalry between two people that really, really, really understand each other, just have to sit on different sides. And how does that affect each other? They both
Okay.
act as a reflective surface to the other one's psychology. And, I may not be you, but that doesn't mean you may be on your sideline, on my sideline, but by looking at you and understanding where you're coming from, that lets me see inside myself a little bit, good or bad.
Okay.
And if you can't tell, I dig, the thematic of reflection in John Wick. Like I thought, if you didn't get the puddle and the waters and the mirrors and glasses, well, maybe the mirror room and the glass house could have given that away. So like, I'm fascinated by using everything as a reflective board to see inside yourself. I think
Okay.
that's pretty interesting. So rather than just on John, we tried to create characters and situations where that bounces back at him throughout the film.
Awesome.
Are those Halle Berry's dogs? Are they coming back? Are we gonna get more dog stuff? I
I
hope.
think there'll probably be some kind of canine activity in the fourth one. I won't say
What
where,
what
how,
what kind
but
of dogs do you have?
I have two little mutts, two little rescues, two little sisters that were rescues from China, actually.
Oh, I have a Korean dog.
Yeah, I just, my wife at the time brought them back over from China. She was working over there, and she took really good care of them. There was 5 pups, found them all homes, and we got 2 of them. And they've been with me
Oh,
for the last 3.5 years
That's
now.
great.
Yeah, I know I love my dogs.
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're both big dog people, so that's part of our love for. We feel like we joke on the show about how we're living in a golden age of dog cinema and how there are all these dog movies being made in the last few years, and I feel like John Wick kicked off that golden age.
If that was my epitaph, I'd be cool with that, man. I'd be pretty cool with that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. I want to see John Wick's dog do some fighting soon too.
There's some good stuff, and I have one of the best dog trainers out there, a guy named Andrew Simpson, who does all the wolves for did all the wolves for Game of Thrones. He's done some amazing things, and if you could see what we actually had to go through to get the dogs to be that aggressive without seeing, fight suits and all that stuff, and still make sure the animals were safe and, psychologically. But again, animals don't know it's a movie. So if you get them fired,
Right.
people don't understand, like when you see a dog attack a human, that's a dog attacking a human. That's not a movie stunt. The dog's trying to kill the individual it's attacking. And whether or not
Right.
it does or does not injure the person because they're wearing the protective gear, the dog has been ramped up to go to that place that it has to kill. It has to. That's psychologically damaging if you do it repetitively. It makes a dog and what do you do after that film's over? That dog is so fucking amped up. And in your mind, in the dog's mind, you've actually, you've encouraged that. You've encouraged the animal to see something and to flip that switch. Like, what do you think they're going to do with that dog when the movie ends? Like, you can't just go put that with little Sally, or you can't let him go walk in the park. He's got a trigger on
Right.
him now. And the dog's, that's not good for the animal. It's not good for any of us to walk around like that. So we wanted to find a way that the dogs understood it was play. Like, you understand when you first get your puppy, the puppy wants to play and chew and toy. And what do you do when he gets old? You smack him. Or you tell him, no, don't do that, because you don't want to chew on the furniture. You don't want to chew up the pillows. Okay, all we did was take animals that knew it was playtime and enhance it. We
Right.
wanted them, instead of just going to fetch the tennis ball is now attached to a stuntman's crotch. So now we gotta make it fun for the dog. So now when they get done, when we yell cut, we pull the release on the ball. The dog gets the ball, and then he's happy. He's like shaking the ball. And he's okay. And we go take the dog out. We take him for a walk. He cools down. We give him a nice little treat, and the dog's like, okay, this is fun. This is good. He's not all stressed out.
That's
And Andrew
great.
came up with the process to help the animals realize, okay, this is playtime and it's controllable. It's not just go, hey, fucking nuts, and then we'll hit you with a taser when the cut's over. Like, that's not cool. And that's how they did a lot of the animal stuff years and years and years ago. So we just had to come up with a new methodology for how to train the animals to make it both mentally and physically conducive to both man and beast.
Well, I know we're running out of time, but Charles and I both wanted to ask you about your relationship with Keanu and sort of his involvement in the series, because much like Mission Impossible, he's in his 50s, but he's still doing these amazing physical things. Can you talk about that whole situation?
One, he's, for those that know, he's a big producer on the show as well. He's a creative driving force. He has a lot to say about the script, the story. Keanu literally writes 90% of his own dialogue. Once we do the couple passes, he'll come in and start tweaking it for himself. He's great. I check in with him. He's currently on Matrix 4 right now, and he's been there for the last couple months, but we check in about every other week. I'll read him pages, and he adds in his 2 cents. He's always in the creative process, and then when it comes to time like that, he's a director's actor, meaning he puts, whether he agreed with you or not on every little detail, he's going to do and give everything he's got into what you believe to be the right choice. And that's important. Like, he can have his hesitations and voice them. Like, the first time we talked about dogs and guns and horses and gun food, he's always, anybody that looks at us like we're fucking off our heads. But he's like, all right, man, I trust, show me what you, and will show me, go, okay, I totally get what you're, like, he's on the ride. And, I'm sure if you talk to anybody about Keanu on any of the shows, he's in Hollywood, he's a legend because, and everyone out there that's not in Hollywood will go, okay, well, why is Keanu always, why, he has a work ethic that is second to none. Like, the guy shows up at 5 a.m, and even on the days he doesn't work, he comes to set just to see what the other actors are doing and to support everybody. Like, it's epic. That's like, you can work as hard as you want at any job any of us do. And would you still go to work on Saturday and Sunday? Would you still go to work on Christmas? All right, well, he does. Even if he's not working, he wants to support everybody else. He's there at rehearsals. When you say you're starting 5 months out of rehearsals, you're going to learn how to do X, Y, Z. And he's like, well, I've never done any of those ever. I'm like, yeah, I know. You're just going to have to sweat harder. And he's like, okay, I'll be there. And he's there. And you got to go on a diet. Okay, I'm there. You can't have a glass of wine. You can't stay out. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Okay, well, you're going to learn another language. We're going to speak through that. Okay, I'm going to go do that. Like, I don't know if you know how many people really want to go that deep into a role, but it ain't many.
Right.
So he's super involved. And he knows right now, even on Matrix right now, and he's working crazy hours doing what you'd expect the next Matrix to be. He knows we're the next up. So, on weekends, he goes to the gym, even on the Matrix, even that, he's going to the gym with our fight team and trying to, maintain a certain level of physical fitness between all the crazy stuff he's doing over there. So he comes back, he can start John Wick, as soon as possible. Start the training for us, which is, equally, if not more intensive than what he's doing now.
Wow.
There's a story about him giving the stuntmen from the Matrix a big piece of his salary, or buying them cars or something.
He gave them no, that was on Matrix 2 and 3. We had done it in sections. The first part of the 2 and 3 that we shot was in Alameda, right below San Francisco in California, right around San Francisco in California. And we did 7.5 months up there. Like, the guys trained with Keanu for like 4 months, and then we shot the sequence we needed to do, and before we all went to Australia and did the next part of the film. That was the park fight that you see in Matrix 2. So we had, 8 guys, 12 Hugo doubles, and I was the Neo double. And, you just spent so much time with these guys and with Yung Wu Ping's guys, like literally every day for 8 months. And, the guys would just talk about a hardcore group of stunt guys. These 12 guys who and Dave Leitch was one of them. Darren Prescott was one. All these big names. They were all part of the Matrix trilogy. They were just tough as nails, and rehearsed 8 hours a day to get the crap kicked out of them, and then another 2 hours in the gym, that kind of thing. So when Keanu got done, we were sitting one day stretching just on an off day. He's like, "Hey, I love the guys. They did such a good job. I want to say thank you." I'm like, "Oh, that's really nice. You don't have to. These are pros. They're getting paid, and this is what they expect." He's like, "Nah, I want to do something special." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome. What do you want to do?" He's like, "I want to give them bikes." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. Mountain bikes. That's way too fucking generous, but that's super cool of you." He's like, nah, I'm thinking motorcycles. I'm like, no, that's not, no. Like, I was one of the stunt coordinators. I'm like, no, you don't do that. Like, the guys are here. They're all pros. They don't, nah, I really want to. I'm like, I don't know what to say. He's like, well, let me come back to you with something. And he comes back to me. He's like a week or two later, he's like, well, Keanu's a huge motorcycle person, loves motorcycles. I got them all Harley Davidsons, custom made, Dynaglides, all this stuff. I'm like, you did what? I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, no, I just really want to say thank you. And I was like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I've known you for, I don't know what to say. So cut to a week later, they literally stopped shooting. It was a Friday up in Alameda, and we're doing this huge, gigantic dance sequence in the cave with Lawrence Fishburne giving a speech. They shut down 2 units, first and second unit. It's like 800 people, by the way. Walk them on. We were shooting at a naval base. They bring everybody outside, like 800 people. Keanu pulls the cast, everybody, and this semi pulls up from Bartell's down here in Los Angeles. Bartell's Harley Davidson unloads 12 brand new Harley Davidsons, and they brought the stunt guys out the 12 guys, and they're all my buddies, and they walk out going, "Hey man, Keanu rented some motorcycles." I'm like, I don't think they're rented. He came out, Keanu went to each one of them, said thank you, gave him a hug, gave him a helmet and a registration, and then just fucking walked back inside.
Wow.
And everybody was just fucking 800 people sat there with their mouths open going, what the fuck just happened? And then, obviously directors and producers are pissed. They're like, well, there goes our fucking day. Not getting much work done today. Fucking 12 stunt guys get on their motorcycles. Our neighbor was and it was, I don't know if you've ever seen Happier 12 stunt guys, but next thing you know, there's guys wheeling down. It was a crazy group of guys. But that's one of the most generous things I've ever said. Just for Keanu to do it and even think about it, have the thought was pretty. I mean, it's never expected, but it was pretty epic of him. And he's honestly in every film, he's done something very similar to that. You just don't hear about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we hope to talk to him at the end of this journey, but thank you, Chad, for being here with us, and we'll keep in touch and keep you posted on our movements. But I think that we could not ask for a better first guest on this Light the Wick special edition, and thank you so much. Seriously, it's been amazing.
No, my pleasure, guys. Thanks. That's very nice
Awesome
of you to even do this. So thank you.
Chad, part 2 in the books. What a dream he is.
Yeah. I mean, that was just amazing to kick off Light the Wick with the essential creative force behind the series, I would say.
Yes. And, off the air, he talked a little bit about what they've got planned for the next 2, and it sounds insane. So, it's going to be interesting to, we draw all these comparisons between John Wick and Mission Impossible. They have a star who does many of his own stunts in the lead. Their emphasis is on practical stunt work, et cetera, et cetera. And now they're filming 2 sequels back to back that are going to go not up against each other, but in pretty quick succession. So it's pretty exciting in that regard, too. So the Wick train will keep on rolling.
Yeah, it was cool to hear him. He brought up Steven Soderbergh's cut of remember that black and white edit that Soderbergh did of Raiders of the Lost Ark? So we'll link that. I think Soderbergh just recently over the holidays just did an update of it, or did some kind of remastering of it or something. So we'll find that, and we'll link it in our show notes if it's still available. It was also cool to hear him talk about how they had to explain their process to the rotating executives at Lionsgate. It was pretty hilarious. He was like, it's actually kind of sounds similar to Mission Impossible, where they would pick a location and then they'd have some ideas and then they'd go make a movie. Like that, they work that way, sort of the same order that Mission Impossible does, where they start from locations, then they find cool things to do in those locations, and they build a movie around it. But it was funny to hear him talk about how they have to explain that process to the rotating execs at Lionsgate.
That's funny. Yeah, these movies aren't easy to make, I'm sure, and but boy, are they awesome to watch.
Yeah. Oh, and I always love to bring it back to Jackie Chan. So he brought up Yuen Woo-ping, and he worked with Yuen Woo-ping on the Matrix movies. Yuen Woo-ping was the fight coordinator for Matrix and Crouching Tiger and the Kill Bill movies. Yuen Woo-ping started out with Jackie Chan. He directed Jackie Chan's breakout movie Snake and the Eagle's Shadow and the very first Drunken Master, both in 1978. Jackie and Yuen Woo-ping started together and then diverged paths, but they both of their careers launched together on Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, which is, I thought, worth mentioning because I always got to bring it back to Jackie.
I love it, Charles. You are our preeminent Jackie Chan scholar, and we love you for that.
There's only 2 of us, so I guess just only.
Well, yeah, you're the, but in my life, I don't know anybody who cares as much about Jackie Chan. So,
oh, wow, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Take that. So, yeah, do you know who's next on our hit list?
Next week is Kevin Cavanaugh. And so next week is actually an episode of Light the Fuse because he was an art director for MI2 and MI3. So next week we'll be talking all about Mission Impossible, and then the following week will be Kevin Cavanaugh Part 2 because he was production designer for John Wick 2 and John Wick 3. So Kevin is an awesome guest, and it's really cool to find these creative people who were involved in both franchises. So it's a lot of fun to split these interviews and give you a little taste of both Light the Fuse and Light the Wick. We love that.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to happen a few times throughout the course of this miniseries. So it's very, very exciting that we get to do that.
Yeah.
So, Charles, do you want to thank anybody this week?
I do want to thank somebody, but first I want to tell everyone to go to our Patreon, patreon.com/LightTheFuse. We've got so many great bonus episodes over there. We did stuff about an MI2 work print that somebody unearthed online, and then we also talk about the Ghost Protocol storyboards for the snowmobile chase that was cut from the opening of Ghost Protocol. We've got so many fun Patreon episodes that we do every week. We always any of the latest news for Mission Impossible. You know that we're covering it. There was a recent report about Tom Cruise using robots on set of Mission Impossible 7 to monitor the COVID protocols or whatever, which I think was a little bit misleading, but we'll have an episode about that. So, we do all kinds of fun Patreon episodes. We reviewed his mask that he uses for during the pandemic. We each bought the mask, so we're on it. You can check out the Patreon again, patreon.com/LightTheFuse. Sign up at the bonus content level. You should also check out our TeePublic page. That is linked from our website, LightTheFusePodcast.com. In the merch section, you will find everything. We've got all of our shirts and everything you can go to TeePublic and buy. We've got Scuba Luther shirts now, which is big time. And designed by Drew's wonderful wife, Katie. She made these amazing shirts for us. So you should definitely pick up one of those. Or you can get it as a magnet or a pin or a sticker. So those are worth doing. And every dollar that you spend there in our TeePublic store, some of it goes to TeePublic. Most of it goes to TeePublic, but some of it goes to supporting our show and making our show possible. So please do that. And also just go to our website and check out the episode guide. If you go to lightthefusepodcast.com and check out all of the show notes there under our episode guide, there's so many cool things there. It's a great companion piece to every one of these episodes. And as to our thank yous, I want to give a very special thank you to Jacob from Holland, who's been with us so long now, and we love Jacob so much. And so a big thank you to him, and a big thank you to our intern, Abby Smith, and also to our editor and mixer, Luke Burson, who does such great work for us, and we couldn't do it without them. Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcast@gmail.com. The doors to any service or provider in connection with the Continental are now closed.